Welcome back and thank you for staying with us. Joining me on Open Conversation this morning is Okechukwu Edenkwo, a regular on Open Conversation and also a political analyst. Good morning, Okechukwu, and welcome.
Yeah, good morning, Lawrence. You're looking very beautiful this morning.
Thank you.
That's by the way.
Thank you very much.
Welcome to all our esteemed viewers all over the world. I think, let's hit the ground running.
All right. And then on to the story. Supreme Court has struck out a suit by 11 PDP-controlled states challenging the emergency rule imposed on Rivers State, ruling that the case was incompetent and outside its original jurisdiction. In a 6-1 decision, the court upheld objections by Attorney General of the Federation and the National Assembly, holding that the plaintiffs failed to establish a justiciable dispute. It further affirmed that President Bola Tinubu is constitutionally empowered to declare a state of emergency and suspend elected officials for a limited period to restore order. While the dissenting justice argued that emergency powers should not extend to suspending elected officials, the majority maintained that Section 305 of the Constitution grants the President discretion to take extraordinary measures to prevent chaos. What do you make of this story? This judgment has been long awaited by a lot of Nigerians, including myself, and I'm sure yourself as well. So now that the judgment is here, I'm interested to know what your take is.
I think let me borrow a leaf from one of the books of Shakespeare, Merchant of Venice. They say a Daniel has come to judgment. That's one. Then secondly, let me also take from bottom to top. They say the president has the right to take extraordinary measures to prevent chaos. You and I know that what happened in Rivers State, the period under review, the state was gradually slipping into precipitation, where the governor and the assembly members, they were dagger drawn. Then the next thing, we had some stories of bombing here and there, pipelines, and you know that the oil is our commonwealth, is the source of our wealth, is the source of our income in this country. So whatsoever that will tamper with it needs to be nipped in the bud. So the president, in his wisdom, thought it necessary to declare a state of emergency, suspending all democratic from the state to the state assembly and the governor, so that they will restore peace and order in Rivers State. And at the end of the day, they sat down, talked, and they all agreed to work together in the interest of peace and development of Rivers State. And on the 18th of September, the president recalled the governor and the state House of Assembly. But if you look at it, he has achieved his aim to nip in the bud impending crisis that would have occurred in Rivers State. Do you know what would have happened if there was an attempt to impeach the governor? It would have set us on the reverse gear as a state.
Is Rivers State the first state to have impeached the governor?
Rivers is not the first, but
so it's not like it's undoable or something that has not happened
to us politically.
When you say it's alien to Rivers State politically, one would say it is politics and its governance, and the legislature has a right to their legislative functions.
But anyway,
whether it affects the executive positively or negatively. But the thing is, if it falls within their jurisdiction and they take such actions, the Constitution provides for it. And Rivers State is not the first state to impeach a sitting governor. Neither will Rivers State be the second or the third state to do that. So when you say it will be what was the word you used exactly again?
They would have put us in the reverse gear.
Put us in the reverse gear.
Yeah,
and the other states where governors were impeached, are they in reverse gear right now?
No, sir. They were as at that time. But now, let's leave the past and talk about more.
When the crisis persisted, was there development in Rivers State?
It is.
It was an amicable resolution.
Of course.
From the perspective of a lot of people and some political parties, they the then 11 PDP states, because I know now there should be like 3 or 4. It wasn't amicable at all. And that was why PDP governors went to court to test the law. What does the law say with respect to the president suspending? I think the issue in this instance was not the emergency rule. The issue in this instance, yes, to some extent, was not the emergency rule, but the main issue was suspension of elected officials, right? And that is the state governor, the executive governor of the state, and the assembly. Now, one would say to a large extent, when you go through Section 305, just like during the time of emergency when we are deliberating all this, I have always asked that question. Section 305 of the Constitution actually did give the president the right to, declare state of emergency. There were certain exigencies stated out clearly in 305, Section 305. However, Section 305 did not cover the peculiarity of River State crisis, which is a two-way thing. First of all, it was a political crisis that was now leading to the breakdown of law and order. The Constitution did not cover what the president should do if it was a political crisis. Now, the second one was suspension of democracy in the state, because a lot of people say that the president's step, the step the president took was undemocratic by suspending the governor and the assembly. The question would be, was the governor, ruling the state with the assembly? He wasn't. According to Supreme Court's judgment, he was doing it on his own. So if there was no democracy in Rivers State at that time, can one necessarily point fingers at the president for declaring state of emergency, saying that the president suspended democracy in Rivers State? The question is, was there democracy at that time in Rivers State? I need clarification on that.
Okay, let me take your question. Say, was there democracy in Rivers?
Prior to the suspension of emergency?
We had a democratically elected governor, and a democratically elected state house of assembly, and the governor refused to work with them for reasons best known to him, citing a pending case in court. And I told people that in a matter, you cannot be a complainant, you cannot be a judge, and you cannot also be a jury and probably an enforcer of a matter that you have in court. You need to wait for the court in their wisdom, or in its wisdom, to resolve the matter before you take any step. So I think as at that point, the governor acted based on impulse, sentiments, and he allowed his emotion to get a better part of him because he didn't wait for the court to handle the matter properly. So he decided to run the state with 3 House of Assembly members, pending when a matter was to be resolved in court. But like I said, that's all in the past. So the other part in that section 305 of the Constitution say the president can declare a state of emergency and further take extraordinary measures to prevent breakdown of law and order and also chaos. So if you look at it, if he thinks in his wisdom that suspending both the governor and the House of Assembly members in the interest of peace and put a sole administrator will make the situation calm, he did it, and he did it in the overall interest of Rivers State. I said here that I borrowed the leaf from Merchant of Venice when I said Daniel has come to judgment. If you study that book very well, like the case in court, when the judge ruled, this other person said Daniel has come to, that's Shylock said a Daniel has come to judgment. When they also gave another clause, part of the judgment, Bassiano said also that a greater Daniel has come to judgment. And in Nigeria, whenever a matter does not favor you, the court is biased. And I tell people, not until we stop pontificating on social media, TV station, where people come sit down and interpret the law the way it suits them without, I say the court is the place where laws are interpreted. So, and the Supreme Court is the final arbiter. Allow matter to get to the final arbiter. The Supreme Court, it is final despite the fact that it's not infallible. but it is final, and whatever they tell you, it is final. So it becomes an authority.
All right. So to a large extent, you are applauding, or you are standing behind the Supreme Court judgment, and you feel the president has discretionary powers to take extraordinary measures in state of emergencies, including suspending elected officials.
Of course, don't forget that apart from the fact that he's the president, he's also commander-in-chief.
Now, commander-in-chief is a democratic. It's a democratic.
No, listen,
no, he doesn't have. It's also very careful. We also have to be very careful with situations like this, so that we do not slide into dictatorship. And we do not empower the wrong things. Now, the Supreme Court in its judgment, I would really love to lay my hand on that CTC, a CTC copy of that judgment, so that I will see where they made it clear. In what situation is the president going to, activate his discretionary powers to suspend elected officials? It's very important. Because we are in a democratic, we say we are running democracy in Nigeria.
Yeah.
The president is elected, just like the state assembly members are elected, just as the governor is elected as well. And the state is sovereign to a large extent. Do you understand? Just like you have the federal government. Now, when a president uses discretionary powers to suspend two arms of government at the same time, it's worrisome. Yes. And yes, like I said, in the case of Rivers State, one would question if there was democracy prior to that emergency rule. But then the court needs to make it clear what the limits are. Giving discretionary powers that is open-ended is dangerous. There has to be limitations. To what extent is this discretionary power? Where does it start and where does it end? And what are the things that the president will see and then take a decision probably to suspend a governor or to suspend the assembly, as it were? I'm interested. That's why I am asking this question, so that in trying to look at it from one perspective, we do not also lose focus of possible negative effects of this particular kind of judgment.
But like I said, if you were in Rivers State, which I believe you were, the state was gradually slipping into precipitation. And the only way to save us of impending doom was that decision. It was a very tough decision.
All right.
But it is what it is, and he took it in the overall interest of the state.
All right. Very well. Moving on to Kwara State. Kwara State Governor Abdul Rahman Abdul Razak has rejected calls by the state chapter of the People's Democratic Party for President Bola Tinubu to declare a state of emergency over alleged links between government officials and bandits. The PDP based its demand on a viral video of suspected bandits arrested in Edo State who allegedly claimed they received AK-47 rifles and a government-branded vehicle from Kwara officials. The party cited rising insecurity and deadly attacks in several local government areas, urging federal authorities to investigate the claims. Responding, the governor's spokesman dismissed the allegations as politically motivated and baseless ahead of the 2027 elections. The Kwara State government maintained that no such arrest occurred in the state and insisted it lacks the authority to issue military-grade weapons. Edenko.
The question I will ask, must we politicize everything? Is that the kind of opposition PDP wants to offer to Nigeria? This is laughable, pitiable, and despicable. And I am being guided by my choice of words. Because you don't run democracy like this. We are an opposition party. We know this is purely a security breach. Quote. And if it's a security breach, it requires full military action. If somebody is caught like that, what they should do is pure or proper investigation, unbiased one at that matter, to get to the root of this matter, and not call for a declaration of state of emergency because some bandits enter the state. All they need to do is to beef up security and not say declare state of emergency. That's where they could call for federal help, federal presence. And at the end of the day, they put these people in check. Not to say that because bandits, okay, since they have been operating in Zamfara, since they have been operating in Kebbi, since they have been operating in, did they declare state of emergency there? So why must it be a Kwara state? Like I said, this is not the kind of alternative PDP should offer to Nigerians. Because for me, the party is still my party, so I'm being guided with what I say. If not, they have lost the leadership, they have lost direction, that section of leadership. And a party that cannot provide direction, it's not an alternative at the moment. So for the spokesperson to say this kind of thing on air, it's it really calls for, gives us a...
Well, you know, I think that the major concern should be around the fact that there are increasing confessions by these bandits alleging sponsorship by certain government officials, highly placed government officials. It should be concerning. It should be concerning. Yes, while these things should not be politicized, we cannot sweep these things under the carpet, right? Humans are actually being killed, not cows.
Of course, I know.
Humans are being killed, not chickens, right? Women and their children are being raped. Women and their children are... There is radicalization going on. A lot of crimes are being committed. And, you know, I watched when one of the senators from the United States came to visit, a woman was telling her story, how she watched her 5 children slaughtered before her eyes. One, her stomach was ripped open and her unborn child was removed from her belly. Another woman told the story of how, you know, they came to a church, separated the male from female, and slaughtered the men before their eyes. And she had to drag her husband's dead body and dug a shallow grave. She buried her husband. These are life experiences of Nigerians who are in IDP camps. They are voiceless. Their stories are not being told.
No, can I tell you something?
No, hold on. Their stories are not being told. There have been mass burials of both Christians and Muslims. I am talking of mass burials of over hundreds in their tents. People packed like sardines and buried. And they are just mere chronologicals. Nigeria will go on public holiday for what is not important, but cannot take a day mourning for massacre. This is a country where a community was massacred for over 2 hours and there was no military intervention. The governor of Kebbi State has come out to ask questions. Who ordered the military to withdraw before they struck a school in Kebbi State? The Zamfara State governor has come out openly on several occasions to say that he knows where the bandits are, that he can show the coordinates on his phone, that he knows the communities where they live. They can be found, they are known, but he cannot do anything because he's not in charge of the security apparatus. It comes from the top. And these bandits are coming out to make allegations, even with respect to a highly placed federal government official appointee, and the president has done nothing. No investigation has been launched. You know, at some point, one would say, when is enough going to be enough?
Very soon.
You're not the president, unless I will be holding you responsible for the actions of the president. When is enough going to be enough in this country?
There is nothing God cannot do. Like when I say there's nothing God cannot do, the situation where we find ourselves is really pathetic. It's heartbreaking, and never in the history of this country that it has been so bad like this, where humans are slaughtered on daily basis like chickens. It's not so for me, the only way to fight this thing is to get to the root of it.
How do you get to the root of it? Who are the ones to get to the root of it? I mean, people that are being bandits are accusing government officials.
At this point, for me,
bandits are actually mentioning names and talking about their transactions. And even the names that were mentioned and their transactions being exposed, those people appear to be untouchable. Who are the people going to investigate this?
For me,
is it the judiciary that we can trust? The same judiciary. Hold on. I am looking at the reward system of Nigerian government and Nigerian judiciary system. The same judiciary, I mean, the consequences for terrorism according to our constitution is death. A terrorist was charged by DSS, found guilty on account of terrorism, and got 22 years imprisonment.
That's arrant.
But a secessionist who is saying we are being marginalized for whatever unorthodox means that he carried out, faced the ultimate penalty, and then they just said that that God spoke to him, so and they are pleaded, so let him give him life sentence. Make it make sense to me. I'm talking of reward system. So who are these people? The same governments and the same people in authority that have come out severally to actually negotiate with bandits openly, and the bandits will wear, a bandit leader will wear the uniform of an assistant commissioner of police that they assassinated and came to that meeting to mock them. Is it in Katsina State that over 17 local governments came together to negotiate with bandits and plead for their lives to be spared, and we have a government?
Okay.
You want me to go on and on?
Let me tell you.
So please, when you say, you will help yourself, but when you say, okay,
yes,
that God will help us, God has no business in what is going on in Nigeria. Let's not bring God into the mix.
Listen, let me tell you why.
Go ahead.
Let me tell you why, where, and how God will help us. At this point, we are in a very desperate situation, and desperate situation deserve desperate measure. If I were to be the president of Nigeria today, the first thing I'll do is to call for military intervention from America and superpowers, because from all indications, we cannot fight these people. We don't have what it takes to fight them. So all we need now is superior firepowers.
What do you mean that Nigerian military cannot fight?
It's clear.
How is it clear?
It's clear.
Are you aware that Nigeria has one of the largest militaries in West Africa, if not the entire Africa? One of, I cannot remember the exact rating. This is Nigerian military that fought the Ekomog War. This is Nigerian military. This is Nigerian military that have gone on peacekeeping missions. This is Nigerian military that has helped and fought to restore sanity in a lot of countries where they do not even know the intricacies and the roadmaps of that country. This is the same Nigerian president released.
So let me
release troops to go to Benin Republic in less than 24 hours to restore law and order. The same military cannot secure lives of students in Kebbi State.
For me,
when you talk about which God?
What Nigeria needs at this point is superior from either America. Let them.
Haven't you seen videos of Nigerian military officers coming out to cry that they do not even have weapons? That the weapons that the bandits are using to fight them is far much more sophisticated than their own. Haven't you seen videos of some militaries who were court-martialed? I think all of them faced death sentence for that he demanded for extra, and the military has not come out to debunk that or give clarification on that. These young officers are making videos exposing the rot in the military, and up until now, make it make sense to me, unless probably with the new minister of defense, the retired CDS Musa, one would say we have hope now.
Yeah, but can you allow me
make it make sense? I want you to look at the trajectory of things that have been happening and tell me why you're justifying and bringing God into this situation.
Why I say God will help us is that at this point we need help.
From God.
Not from God. God will only touch the minds of superior fighters to help, because from the way it is, we cannot stand these people. So we need help. We need assistance.
Let's just assume that God does not want to help. Can we just
then you should cry for help.
No, hold on. Can we just come to a point in Nigeria where we remove religion and religious manipulation from the ills, man-made wickedness in this country? I think we should just remove God from this equation, because for crying out loud, no, God has created. Hold on.
We cannot.
For Christians, they will tell you that God created man and gave man free will, and gave man choice.
We cannot.
And so what you have your choice to do right or to do wrong. When you look at places like China, where they have death sentence for corrupt officials who are actually proven to be guilty of corruption and embezzlement, I do not think it was God that put those laws. I don't think it was God that made their judiciary so strong that they will look at a highly placed minister in the face and sentence him or her to death on account of corruption. Can we remove God from the equation? Because last time I checked, most of the countries in Europe that do not have active prisons do not have churches. They do not have mosques.
No doubt.
So can we just remove God from the equation?
We cannot.
And you cannot. You cannot.
We cannot.
But I feel to a large extent, when you bring God in the equation of the reality of Nigerian situation, one will begin to even question how retrogressive we are in this country.
Well, at this point, we are helpless. When I say we are helpless,
how are we helpless?
We cannot fight them.
How
so
can
in
we
as much
fight
as we
them?
cannot, let's seek for help. Let's cry out for help.
Let me ask you a question. What indices did you consider when you arrived at this opinion of yours that Nigeria cannot fight? Is it lack of political will? I don't want to give you reasons, possible reasons, but I need to understand the different things you considered when you said, oh, Nigeria cannot fight and now we need divine intervention.
First, this whole thing started from the northeast, especially Borno and part of Zamfara, where Maiduguri, where we have borders. But if you look at it now, they are making incursion. They've not just succeeded in this other area. They are now making incursion. Today you hear of a lorry, Niger. And before you know, if we're not careful, we don't seek for help, they overrun us. So that's why I say we need divine intervention. Then secondly, the time frame. For everything, there's a timeline. This whole thing has lingered for a very long time. This is started during Jonathan's or Obasanjo's tenure. Gradually, Jonathan's tenure, Buhari's tenure. Now Tinubu is going towards his third year. And if we're not careful, this will come to stay. And if it comes to stay, it's something that we cannot control. It's no longer in our hands. So the only thing we need at this point is help. There's no shame. There's no shame in crying out for help.
Now let me ask you a question. Do you believe in God intervention for man-made crisis?
Of course.
Or man-made intervention?
I believe first in divine intervention.
For man-made crisis?
Using human vessels to correct it. Because basically God cannot come down from heaven to do it.
Okay. And to a large extent, Nigeria needs divine intervention for its insecurity, yes?
When I mean divine intervention, we need people to help us. Let's get help. There's no shame in seeking for help when something overwhelms you.
Then probably you should be talking about foreign collaboration.
Of course, that it is.
Not divine intervention.
No. When I mean foreign collaboration, I was going there. That's why we need to cry out for help, for foreign aid. Let them come and fight for us.
Or should we be looking into possible corruption in the military hierarchy to understand why so much money has been allocated for security, yet soldiers are complaining that they don't have.
For me, I also
don't have enough weapons.
Apart from the fact that there's corruption, there's also infiltration within the military, where you capture some Boko Haram people, you bring them back, you send them for rehabilitation.
So how are
we now ask those same people to join the Nigerian army?
Aren't we actually arriving at the same conclusion when I asked you, how do you need divine intervention for something like this? Is it not for the government to take a definite position? First of all, for the Senate to make laws with regards to special laws with regards to banditry, terrorism, kidnapping, and all of that. Is it not to make special laws with respect to that? Is it
we
not
also
hold on? Is it not to tighten laws on cashless policy and make it literally impossible for Nigerians to carry about huge amount of cash, forcing and reducing kidnapping and ransom payment, because it has to now be done by transfers?
Yes.
Is it not for the executive to ensure that certain steps are taken? First of all, the right people are meant to man those positions, and then lodge an investigation into corruption within the rank and file of the military at different strata. Is it not for the judiciary, the executive, to insist and implement the full weight of law against terrorism sponsors?
You have the point.
Is it not time for even the anti-graft and anti-corruption agencies to make arrests of people appointees of the government, the powers that be, the touch-nots and all whatnots in this country, the political elites who have been fingered by bandits as being sponsors of terrorism and being culpable in terrorism in this country?
That could always be, it can be done when there's proper intelligence gathering. First is to have an information. Once you have that information, you get to the root of it, do proper investigation. And by the time
when you say by proper investigation, are these things not the things I am just saying?
But
because everything,
that's why the DSS
point is this:
place.
everything I just mentioned now has no place with divine intervention. Everything I just mentioned now has everything to do with government and governance and the will of these different agencies and commissions, these different arms of government, to do right and just.
For me, see, what I believe in fighting crime and criminality is pure intelligence gathering. Once you conduct pure intelligence gathering, you get facts. You get to know things and not what other, even if you have an information.
So far with what Nigeria, so far with the intelligence that has been gathered, what has been the result? I just gave you one that DSS did, prosecuted the young man for terrorism, and he got 22 years. And who knows, probably along the line, in one of these days, he will get presidential pardon. I mean, it is what it is.
No, for me,
but then when you look at it critically, I believe in
capital punishment against this kind of offenses, banditry.
All right.
I believe you doesn't even need to go to court. Once it is confirmed, you don't need to go to court. Because why I say you don't need to go to court, their own aim is also to kill. So except they know that.
But then we have a government, or even past governments, that have said, oh, I remember one of the elected
we need foreign collaboration.
One of the elected officials that even said, oh, they are our brothers. Didn't the former president even say that?
It's his brothers.
Didn't an ex-president even say that? Now I'm looking at the people in power and how the romance, how these people have, these bandits, these terrorists have been treated with kid gloves. And these terrorists and these bandits are now coming out to make confessions. They are on TikTok, they are emboldened. I mean, are you aware that right now if you come on any social media handle to say something defamatory that you cannot prove, the police will pick you up wherever you are?
Of course.
Yet these bandits cannot be picked up. They do live, they go live and show ransom money. Are you aware that they do videos where they threaten the government? They openly challenge the government. And they've done videos where they have even alleged. When you're telling me hold on, you say hold on and then you still come back to intelligence gathering. And I want to ask you a question. The intelligence at EFCC and some other anti-graft and anti-corruption agencies have gathered on certain Nigerians. How many successful prosecutions have we had over the years?
Why I said so is that first, we know where they are. And if we know where they are, the best thing is to take the fight to them. Me, in crime fighting, the best way is to be proactive and not reactionary. Why I say reactionary is that you don't wait for them to come at you. If you don't, you go after them. That's the only way to unsettle them.
All right? All right, very well. We'll go on a short break, and when we come back, we'll continue. Do not go away. Welcome back and thank you for staying with us. Senate has directed the National Security Officer to investigate and prosecute those behind false reports alleging that Senate President Godswill Akpabio suffered a health emergency and was rushed to a London hospital. The resolution followed a point of order raised by Senator Titus Zam during plenary, where he described the reports circulating on some media platforms as dangerous misinformation that should not go unpunished. Responding, Akpabio condemned the spread of fake news, lamenting the challenge of regulating online media content. He described such publications as irresponsible and reaffirmed that the reports about his health were completely false. Therefore, what do you make of this? Interestingly, Akpabio presided over the plenary. Meanwhile, reports have it that he was rushed to a London hospital. I'm interested to know your take on this.
I think we have far more pressing national issues to discuss in the Senate than this.
Interesting observation.
Very far more pressing national issues that borders on the peace of this nation, progress of this nation, than somebody saying that Akpabio was rushed to the hospital when he was, okay, assuming not conceding. Is he not a human being who can get sick, get healed, and if God permits, he also dies? Is he a superhuman being? It's not. So this kind of matter is not something that should come up for discussion in National Assembly, and talk less of more the red chamber that is Senate. All they need to do is to...
In face of what Nigeria is
facing face of
right
what
now.
Nigeria is facing, than to come and talk about this. This shouldn't be a subject of discourse in the Senate. I'll be very blunt about it. We have far more pressing national issues than this kind of matter. Is just to do a petition to the police, get a lawyer, then they trace the content and get the persons or whosoever that is emanating from than to discuss this kind of issue on the floor of the Senate.
They are pushing it to the NSA that has their hands full with a lot of issues right now.
Diversionary, this is dictatorial, and it's not something that the Senate should even put in the other paper to be discussed. He has his lawyers. He should instruct them on what to do.
All right. Very well. Moving forward, former Minister of Transportation Rotimi Amechi has declared that he will not serve as Vice President to any presidential candidate in the 2027 general elections, dismissing speculation that he could not deputize former Vice President Atiku Abubakar. Speaking at an event in Abuja, Amechi said he is too presidential to be anyone's running mate, adding that the problem with the office of Vice President in Nigeria is structural. According to him, the role is often subordinate and dependent on the disposition of the president. Amechi, who is also seeking the African Democratic Congress presidential ticket, argued that such an arrangement could lead to conflict, noting that he would rather serve as a minister than accept a vice presidential position. What is your take on this?
He's the one saying it.
It's his position. Probably he's receiving pressure to be a running mate to Atiku Abubakar in 2027.
I wish him good luck. What do you want me to say? To say that
what are his chances, considering the fact that when you look at the political ecosystem right now, most governors are with the APC, and that is President Tinubu. I mean, parties, PDP has lost thousands of its members to the APC. And you now have the power of incumbency of different states. You have the federal might and all of that.
I'm not in his party.
How do you see this playing out come 2027? Do you think Amechi, let's say Amechi succeeds in getting the ticket for ADC presidential race? Do you see Amechi winning in Rivers State? Because, I mean, charity begins at home. Let's start from Rivers State. Do you see Amechi winning presidential election in Rivers State?
Well, the difference between here and there is T. And T connotes time when you want to spell here and there. But when you look at antecedents in the past, has he been able to deliver his party in elections in Rivers State?
Has he?
I'm asking you now.
You can't ask me. I'm asking you a question. So where I come from, you don't answer a question with a question.
Okay, since 2015, has he been able to deliver his party in Rivers State, or his candidates that he supports, has he been able? The answer is no. The facts are clear, they're overwhelming. Even the last 2023 election, where they all pitched their tent with a certain candidate of PDP, a professional presidential candidate that has been contesting elections since 1992-93 till today, and he's still in the race of contesting. I don't know if God told him that he must be the president of this country before he dies. So he wants to actualize that God-given vision. I don't know for him. So that's, by the way, they supported him in 2023. For the first time, PDP could even get the required 25% in Rivers State. So, like you said, in Rivers State, he doesn't have what it takes to win elections in Rivers State. It's quite clear since 2015 till today. The results are there. We have the report cards. So that's the much I can say concerning Rivers State. But if he says he's a presidential material and not vice presidential, I wish him luck.
Now, when you look at the point he raised with regards to he said the problem with being a vice president is structural, because it's a role that is your visibility and your level of responsibility is dependent on the disposition of the president. What Amechi said is a true observation that cannot be swept under the carpet.
That's his perspective. You know, like I tell people.
Is it a perspective or is it a reality?
It's a perspective. Why I said so, I always draw my inference from the Holy Book, like the first 4 Gospels of the New Testament. They all saw different things, and they all saw the same things and gave a different account based on their perception. So that's his own perception. That's his own.
So what is the role of the vice president?
The role of the vice president is purely supporting the president. Whenever the president is not around, the president could delegate functions to him. Okay. Or when the president is out of the country, he can also act for the president. Secondly,
if the president officially transfers power
to him. That's all. Secondly, if the president wants to attend a function and he's not disposed, you can also say, let the vice president represent me. So if you look at it, a number 2 citizen in every country is not an ordinary citizen.
So now, everything you have stated, doesn't it still boil down to the vice president being active or inactive, depending on the disposition of the president? Because the president is not bound to tell the vice president to represent him. The president can send anybody to represent him anywhere. It's at his discretion.
Yes.
So now, if that is the case, what exactly is the role of the vice president?
It's to support the president.
So if he's supporting the president, his support is only visible depending on the disposition of the president.
Well, for me, like I always tell people, nobody lights a lamp or a candle and keeps it under the table. It must be kept on top.
So you now agree with Amechi that his concern about the office of the vice president being structural is true?
Hold on. If you have a vice president that is worth his salt, if you have a vice president that knows what it takes, you have a vice president that is bringing something to the table, you definitely bring him to the table. In fact, you put him close to the table.
Maybe you speak for yourself in this instance and not others, because there are a lot of precedents that has been set. We are even, I think it happened in the time of Obaseki in Edo State. Your guess was as good as mine, how Obaseki's deputy was ridiculed.
Yes, Obaseki's deputy was ridiculed, being Philip Shuaibu, because Obaseki had complex problems.
So now
he discovered that Philip Shuaibu was becoming very powerful, so they needed to cut him.
Now, which means that the survival, the visibility, and otherwise of a deputy governor or vice president is highly dependent on the disposition of the president or the governor. Just like you said. supporting role.
You're playing this, but if you...
which means
if you hold
that
on,
Amaechi's reasons cannot be said to not be valid.
That's his perspective.
You say that's his perspective.
Yes.
But that appears to be what is applicable in the Constitution. I've asked you questions and your answers only concretized Amaechi's reservations. And why you say that's his perspective,
I say there are some exceptions.
you still agree, you still agree by your submission that what Amaechi has said.
We are not in a court of law.
It's true.
We are not in a court of law. We are not in a court of law. We are having a conversation. Just like the program says, open conversation.
It's open now. That's why I'm asking you questions.
From the way you're doing it, you're putting me on the spot as if
I'm not putting you on the spot.
Of course, as if I'm on the door.
I didn't mean to put you on the spot. But I also needed you to see that you are concurring with what Amaechi is saying.
I didn't concur with him.
President.
I didn't concur.
So when you now said that Shaibu had a complex, Obaseki had a complex issue, and Shaibu was becoming too powerful, and he had to cut down Shaibu's powers by ridiculing him in the way he did, what does that tell you? When you say that the vice president has a supporting role, what exactly does that mean? What exactly is vague? It's ambiguous. So what exactly does that mean?
The vice president is like the neck to the head. And the head is useless with
this is the interesting thing. The vice president is not like a head to the neck. Vice president, deputy governor are like spare tires that remain in the trunk of a car as long as it is not needed to come out. It will come out only when it's needed to come out. And you know the interesting thing is this: most times a vehicle can run for years without needing the spare. As the tire is deflating, you add more air, you're good to go. In most cases, the tires get worn out. They don't even use the spare tires. They will just go and buy fresh tires and put back.
Now, but in the world over, vice presidents are very active.
Hold on. So now, they are not what you call them. They are spare tires, actually. So now, it means that the owner of the vehicle can use the spare at his discretion. Sometimes can even lend the spare to a friend to use, pending. You understand? So when you look at it very well, the vice president is not a neck in the way you're saying it. Probably one would say spare tire, which probably with what the concern Amaechi has raised, probably that position should be looked into and made to be much more stronger and have clear responsibilities and rules. So the president can choose for the entire 4 years not to send the vice president on any representative function.
That's if he doesn't have a robust relationship with his principal.
And depending on the disposition. And again, just like you said, a lot of times politicians, especially the executives, the word, let's say, law of power, do not outshine the master. It becomes a problem, especially if the master has plans for second time. Don't you agree with me?
Of course.
So can you now say that Amaechi's concerns are not valid?
That is his own.
So don't you think that probably with these concerns raised, the role of a vice president and even deputy governors should be revisited?
The only thing is that they should look at their constitutional powers.
What are their constitutional powers again?
That's where they need to...
What are their constitutional powers again?
They have to...
Just like you said, supporting role. Thank you so much, Okechukwu Edeko, for coming. It's a pleasure having you today on Open Conversation. And thank you so much, our viewers, for always staying connected to us. And this is where we wrap it up on this episode of Open Conversation. Join me again tomorrow on Open Conversation. I remain Laurentia Ugu. See you same time tomorrow. Bye for now.